Hello, everyone. I'm Brenda L. Balding. The L stands for Love's Inner Voice, the Path of Self-Discovery. That's the TV show that you're watching. We hope that you spend the next 45 to 50 minutes with us because we're going to be learning a lot about somatic self-care with a very caring, loving man that I've known for 5 or 6 years now. And that's John Freedom, and I'll tell you a little bit more about him later. But let's start this session like we always do, honoring yourself by doing some deep heart breathing. Breathe in through your heart into your lungs. Just imagine you're breathing through your heart into your lungs, down into your core. And just breathe in the light of love. And as you breathe out anything that you want to let go of in this moment and give it to the light of love. And let's do that 3 or 4 times to some beautiful music. Breathe in to the count of 3 or 4. And breathe out. Notice what might be going on in your mind, your body. Just be. It helps calm me down, and I'm hoping it does the same for you. It also deepens my contact to the divine, whatever that is for you. So today's intention. I am developing greater somatic awareness within my body by attending to my emotions, sensations, and needs. And we'll talk about how we can do that with John. So John is a lovely man that I've been able to meet in person, which is really nice after being in COVID for 4.5, 5 years. 5 or 6 years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting him. He's an author, a counselor, an EFT trainer in Santa Rosa, California, which is close to where I live. I live in Windsor. And we can show his thumbnail if you would like, Yana. He also has certificates in NLP, EFT, EMDR, havening, which I love, and articular acupuncture. He serves as a research coordinator for the Association of Comprehensive Energy Psychology and is the executive director of the Finding Recovery and Empowerment from Abuse, a nonprofit offering online resources for survivors of sexual abuse. The author of Heal Yourself, which you see a little bit in this thumbnail, with Emotional Freedom Technique. He leads seminars throughout the United States and Europe. Well, maybe Egypt too. Europe. I know he's been to Europe many times. Please welcome to the stage, to the studio, John Freedom. Thank you so much for being here, John. And somatic self-care. Tell us a little bit more about that. I know that part of that is doing some movement, and I know you'd like to start with some movement. So do it in whatever order you would like to do it.
Okay. Well, hi, Brenda. It's great to be here. Yes, somatic self-care refers to methods for caring for our minds and bodies using breath and movement and mindfulness. These are mindful movements.
Yeah.
And just as we need, for example, we need to bathe and brush our teeth every day. So in my opinion, we need to practice positive self-care every day. And as you know, a lot of folks spend their days sitting at desks and staring at screens for hours and hours. And this is bad for our posture, our breathing, and health, but it's also very stressful. And then what happens when we stay in the same position all the time, we lock these patterns of stress into our muscles and soft tissue, and they can become chronic. So we need to be proactive and practice somatic self-care to interrupt these patterns of stress and replace them with, healthier patterns of, breathing and feeling being alive. Now, one way that I do that myself is that I practice something I call the three corrections. Okay.
Ooh,
And so it involves checking in with myself with three different things. So I simply ask myself, how's my, after I've been working for an hour or two and kind of, I get into go get her done mode and I'm staring at the screen, staring at the screen here. I just simply ask myself, how's my posture? Okay. And then I adjust, correct, just to adjust my posture. Okay. Then how's my breath? And then breathe several long, slow, deep breaths. I shift gears because a lot of times, quite honestly, I forget to breathe. Okay. Then the last one is how is my attitude? And I check, just check my attitude. So those three things, check my posture, check my breathing, check my attitude, and then just gently readjust them. And just takes like a minute or two, and then I'm back centered again and focused, and then I can plow back into work, more easily and more mindfully. Okay. So as we all
great
know,
and simple.
yeah, simple but profound, just like
Yeah.
a lot of practices are.
Yep.
So as you know, our minds are in our bodies. Consciousness is in the body, okay, but also our bodies are in our minds, which is interesting when you think about it. But our physical bodies arise out of an inner field of consciousness or awareness. And so, very often, the fastest way to shift our state of mind is to move and shift our bodies. And of course, this is the mind body connection. So I like to teach us a series of movements I call psychocalisthenics. Psychocalisthenics, okay? And these are mind body exercises, as I mentioned, combining breath and movement and mindfulness. And these are ways of getting out of our heads and getting into our bodies, getting physical. Remember that song, Let's Get Physical, physical,
Physical.
physical. Right? Okay, so I'll demonstrate this. And those of you in the audience are welcome to come and play along with me, with us, if you like. Okay. What you do first is get into Tai Chi position with the feet apart, bend the knees. Okay. The arms are loose. The arms are just dangling. Okay. And then gently begin swinging side to side. Okay. As we swing left, push off the right toes. And swing right, push off with the left toes. Okay. You just allow the centripetal force to take you. Okay. Then the next one is with the knees bent again, feet apart. Imagine that we're swimming and doing the breaststroke. Okay. So we're inhaling and release, and inhale, fill up the chest, release, and inhale, and release, and inhale, and release, and once more, inhale. Okay. And of course, we're filling up the lungs and chest. If you can imagine that your chest, that your lungs are like balloons, and we're filling up the balloon, inhaling, filling up the balloon, and then letting it go. Okay. Now, all these movements should be done slowly and mindfully, but also joyfully. There's just a sense of joy and presence and energy and aliveness that happens. You do these exercises again slowly and mindfully, but also again allowing yourself to feel a sense of joy at the same time. Okay, we're going to stand back a little bit. Now we'll do another swimming stroke, which is the backstroke. Let's begin reaching arms back. Just like we're doing the backstroke even though we're standing up. And then look over each shoulder, look way, way, way back behind you. So we're looking around 360 degrees. And so we're opening up our range of perception as well as our range of motion. And so we're gently reaching and stretching and opening and expanding our bodies and minds. And breathing, of course, remember to breathe. Feeling the stretch, feel the openness, feeling the expansion. And as we're reaching and stretching, opening and expanding. Ah, okay, good. Shake that out, let that go. Then went back to Tai Chi position, bend the knees. You're familiar with shaking, so just begin bouncing and breathing. Bouncing up and down. So we're bouncing and breathing, breathing and bouncing. Again, as you know, stress is very physical. Stress is not just in the head, stress is in our bodies. And so it's good to connect that stress and just kind of wiggle it out, move it out, take it on out. Shake it out. Okay. And normally, I lead a class on Tuesday evenings. Normally, we'll do this for even longer than this. This is just a brief demonstration here. Okay. And raise the hands over our heads. Gently wave to side, waving. You can imagine that we're like bushes and trees, waving in the breeze, just waving, bouncing back and forth. And feeling our bending from the hips. Feel ourselves moving and stretching and waving. Like making a great big figure eight, like an infinity symbol on its side. You can imagine that we're sending and expressing this energy all the way out the far corners of the universe and all the way out to infinity. Okay, let that go. Okay, then one more, very simple. The feet a little wider than shoulder width apart, bend the knees, and bring your hands back to back. And slowly inhaling, filling up the lungs and chest, inhaling, hold the breath. And release, letting go. Hands back to back, inhaling, filling up the lungs and chest, opening. Hold the breath. And release, letting go. Taking out. And back to back, filling up the lungs, opening and expanding. And release. Take out. Back to back, opening, expanding. And feel your inner flower opening. Feeling your inner flower. And release. And again, filling up the chest, opening and expanding, reaching up and reaching out. And release. And then one more time, filling up the lungs, opening, expanding. And imagine embracing the entire universe. Reaching up, reaching out, embracing. and release and let go. Let's take that out, and then I'll come back to my seat. And
Thank you so much, John. I know I enjoy that on Tuesday nights. Um, my favorite part is the last part where we do the breathing, because I feel like when I'm doing this, I'm creating a heart and I'm opening myself to the love and the light, and also releasing whatever doesn't belong anymore and then bringing in the love and the light.
yes,
I
yes,
come back in because I'm sort of making a heart shape when I'm
yes,
doing. So I really like doing that.
yeah.
And
Well,
we can
these
start doing
exercises,
that when we do our heart breathing too.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, these
So,
exercises are both very physical, but also they're energetic, removing energy in the body, but they are also symbolic and metaphorical.
so
And
tell
they're,
me a little bit more about, tell our audience a little bit more about that.
well, it's just what you said about when you bring your hands like this, like you're making a heart, for example, you know,
Right,
and also this whole idea of just opening and expanding. We're expanding again, not just we're opening, we're stretching, not just our bodies, but stretching and opening our minds as well. It's stretching in, whoops, opening, lost my light here. We're stretching and opening up and reaching out to, again, far beyond ourselves, you know, opening, expanding our boundaries and our minds
right,
and our souls.
right. The other exercise that I like doing is the infinity symbol,
Yes,
because when I do that, I feel so connected with no limitations, with the universe in its biggest, or source in its biggest expansive way. And
yes,
that's really kind of fun to feel, and
yes,
you say do this with joy.
yes.
And so sometimes I find myself giggling, and here I didn't want to do that.
Uh,
However, we're
no,
on mute when we're doing
yeah,
it on the show, and so
giggle, no,
doing
giggle,
it.
giggle, giggle away, giggle away.
Well, I giggle and I cry.
You're welcome.
Those are
Yeah,
things that I do.
yeah. So,
So
Brenda, you,
tell me a little bit more about how you got involved in all this. And one of the things that I've experienced in coming to your transformational Tuesday nights, which we'll talk about later, is you add new things as you learn new things. And, I've never heard of havening before until you brought it up to the transformational evening. I had heard of EFT, but a lot of people still haven't. Um, if you say tapping, some people think of tap dancers. Most people realize that it's
yeah,
this that we're talking about. So, give us a little bit of history of how you got involved in all of this beautiful, energetic, somatic self care.
yeah. Uh, well, how I got involved in it, Brenda, was that, like a lot of us, I came from, what's called a dysfunctional family, and my parents were good people, but they were unhappy. My mother was probably manic depressive, and my parents fought a lot. And I myself was very moody. I would at times just be taken over by just horrible moods, or just feel depressed or angry for no reason at all, and I had no idea why. I was just taken over by these, like, say, awful moods. And so when I was in my late 20s, I realized that I couldn't continue living this way, and I realized that I needed to find out how to heal myself, and that began a long search process of, going through, for example, studying meditation, studying yoga, studying, again, different kinds of therapies, and that brought me to learning, EFT and energy psychology. Okay, and so for those of you who don't know, so EFT, it stands for the Emotional Freedom Technique. It's a new
Mhm,
method for rapidly resolving emotional distress and trauma, and that is done by tapping on acupressure points. Okay,
mhm,
so we have these 12 meridians, six in the front and six in the back, and they run longitudinally up and down the body. And these are energetic pathways for, again, for flows of energy. But what happens is when we have either a physical illness, or when, um, for whatever reason, the emotions are very closely correlated um, with emotions. Okay, and so, for example, the lung meridian is associated with grief. The kidney meridian is associated with fear. The large intestine meridian is associated with stuckness, for example, very interestingly. Okay, and so they found that by attuning to these different meridian points and just gently tapping on points in the body, it opens up these meridian pathways and it kind of blows out and releases the stuck emotion there and leaves us feeling alive and happy and healthy and ready to take on the world. Okay, so I learned EFT from its founder Gary Craig back in 1998, and first became a practitioner, and as you mentioned, I've been a trainer, and I've led trainings in EFT in all over the United States and in Alaska and in Europe. And so, um, and it's not the only method. There are many ways to to change and heal and transform, but EFT is a particularly powerful and effective way.
One of the things that I really like about EFT is that you can do it yourself. You don't need
Yes,
anybody else to do it. I mean, you do need some help to do the backside,
right.
but it's not necessary to do the backside because you can get what you need by doing the
Yeah,
front part because of your intention when you're doing it. And I heard you mention they have found, obviously, that means there's been some research done around this, and I bet you can share some of that with
sure.
us.
Yeah. Well, to let you know, among my other duties, I coordinate research for an organization called ACEP, ACEP, which stands for the Association for Comprehensive Energy Psychology. Okay, and I've been a member of the organization since, well, right from the get go when they founded, which is about the year 2000. Okay, and so I track research on specifically
Mm.
EFT and other modalities. And there was a recent review by a scholar named Dr. David Feinstein, which show that there are over 200, more than 200 research studies, specifically randomized controlled trials, what are called pre and post outcome studies, and clinical case studies, and then also meta analyses, which are reviews of reviews, which are reviews of the studies themselves. Okay. And out of these over 200 research studies on EFT and what is called acupoint tapping modalities, 98%, well, basically all of them except for one, but 98% have shown evidence for efficacy. Okay. And they found that EFT is effective for specifically for anxiety, especially test anxiety, and for depression, for fears and phobias, for chronic pain, and then also for both academic performance and athletic performance. So one
Hmm.
very interesting thing is that EFT is actually a broad spectrum technique that is, very useful and widely applicable for a wide range of, everyday human conditions, including especially stress, because we all have stress, of course.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
And that's why I love the 4 check ins
Yeah.
because, if we don't look at our posture, we can kind of get this and we're all scrunched up and then we're not breathing well. And then our attitude is going, we might get into, and I've done this before, and
Yeah.
not
Right.
understand why. And that's stress. That's body stress, which
Yes.
then leads to psychoemotional stress.
Yes.
And, these 3 check ins, checking my posture,
Yes.
checking my breath, and taking some wonderful deep breaths, heart breaths, or, you know, heart breaths, and then checking my attitude. That's so cool because posture and breath I've done before. I didn't think about attitude.
Well, sure.
What?
We get into a negative attitude, or we get into feeling irritated or upset with somebody, or upset about an email I received, or whatever, and then it kind of hangs on with us. And so, if we can catch ourselves, and again, just simply checking in, how's my
Right,
posture, how's my breath, how's my
right.
attitude, okay. And one thing is, I like to do this like every hour or so, but I sometimes forget, so I'll set up my timer on my cell phone, okay, and then set my cell phone for like say to buzz every 60 minutes, every
Right,
hour, and that reminds
right.
me to do my 3 check-ins.
That's very cool.
Yes.
That's very cool. So you mentioned different kinds of conditions. Um, Can you tell us how they affect these conditions and how what the time span is, how long you might need to do this? I mean, what I've experienced is I get an immediate effect of the immediate emotion that I'm feeling.
Yeah,
And I know that if we do this over long term, we have long term effect. But do you understand my question?
kind of, sort of. Okay.
So,
So,
how
yeah,
time wise, once you start doing EFT or one of the other modalities, are you
yeah.
doing it for life? Are you doing it just
Well,
for in moment
EFT is
dealing with, or
yeah.
both?
So it's important to realize, in my opinion, that EFT, just like, for example, yoga and Tai Chi and Qigong, is a practice. Meditation is a practice.
Okay.
And, for example, you get up in the morning, you take a shower, and it's not like, once you shower, you're done for the rest of your life. We need to shower and
Right.
bathe every day. Okay. So the same also of our practices. We need to, in my opinion, we define ourselves by what we do every day, and what we practice every day. Okay. And so, but on the other hand, EFT, sometimes when you tap, say you have a simple issue like a clearly defined phobia, a person is basically well adjusted, but they have this one little fear of spiders, for example. Okay. um, you can get in touch with that fear of spiders, do this tapping sequence, and bam, it releases. And in EFT land, we call those 1 minute miracles, okay, or 1 minute wonders. And that happens sometimes, but more often, for example, I have dealt with chronic anxiety most of my life, and I've largely healed myself of that. But quite frankly, that took me months and years of doing it. Every morning, for example, I would get up, I would make my to do list, and I would look at it and say, "Oh my God, I got so much to do," and I would kind of feel deflated and defeated in advance because I had
Right.
my to do
Yeah.
list, and oh my God, I'll never get this done, and I start to feel anxiety about getting it all done and all that kind of stuff. And so then I would, like I say, make the to do list, get in touch with what's going on, you know. Even though I feel upset about this, even though I'm feeling anxious about, even though I'll never get everything done on my to-do list and etc., do my tapping, kind of blow it out. And again, it has taken literally months, and I would have to say years, Brenda, but I no longer have that chronic anxiety in the morning any longer. And that's huge. For me, that is huge.
Well, that's really huge. The other thing that I heard you say, which is really nice, is that the tapping or some of the other modalities, and I mentioned havening because I love that because
Right.
I'm a kinesthetic, and so havening really touches me because I'm massaging myself basically.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the quick miracle, so the immediate. So tapping can release the immediate anxiety so that then I can look at it and go, what more can I do? What is the learning for me here? I can start
Yeah.
asking the questions that we talk about in this show
Yes.
so that then I can go, oh, that's
Yes.
what's going on. Now I can continue to do this every day, or every time I feel this little niggle,
Yeah.
I can build it into my self care practice.
Yeah, Brenda, that's a great point. In that, um, when we have a button, for example, somebody pushes our button,
Hmm.
or when we get triggered, what we're actually happening is that we are being reminded of an earlier similar trauma or an earlier similar painful experience. So, for example, somebody might do something I don't like they talk too much. People who talk too much, for example, and they just chatter, on and on, for example, okay? And if I get triggered by that, it's not so much about why the person who's, talking too much, in the moment. It's because this is triggering me and reminding me of some event in my past, okay? And so if you gently tap on this, it will release that. It'll take the off the rough edges. It may not go away completely, but
Right,
it releases the emotional charge on that. And then you're able to, now I can relax. Now it's not the person who's bothering me. It's my own internal, picture or image of that. We talked about interjects in our last class on Tuesday. Okay. It's my
right,
own internal mindset that's causing that. Okay. Then you can ask yourself questions like you said, what is this about? What does this remind me of? What's going on here? Okay. And then you start making these new neural connections. And this is, by the way, this is neuroplasticity in action. We're not stuck
Yes.
in the old way it has to be. Every time we have an insight or realization, or we add havening or tapping, which are somatic techniques, to our experience, we are literally creating and recreating new neural pathways in our brains and minds, and we are literally starting to see and feel and experience our world differently. And again,
That
this is real change. This is transformation.
and that's what I love about it, because it
Yeah.
truly is about self-discovery.
Yes.
And it's another tool that we have for discovering who we are and how we might want to show up in the world and what we might want to let go of.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. In the 12-step programs, they had the saying, they said recovery is discovery.
Yes, it is.
And it's getting to know yourself in a new and intimate way, and getting to understand why we react, why we behave a certain way, why we are the way we are, who we are, and etc. And with that understanding, then you can begin to making, real and deep and powerful shifts.
Yep. And since we've been talking about EFT, or which you call an energy psychology,
Yeah.
um, and its psychology has to do with somatic changes and brain changes, really, because if we're looking at things differently, we're creating actual new energetic pathways in the brain. And they're just really finding that out over like the past 20 years, that we can build new dendrites and all of that in the brain
Well,
by doing
yeah.
somatic self care,
Yes, exactly, exactly. And the
which
amazing
is
thing
so
is that we are
exciting.
developing. See, the old 20 years ago, they taught that, once you had reached your period about middle to late 20s, your brain was set in stone, and that was not capable of changing anymore. And they also taught that we were not creating new brain cells, and they
Right.
found that both of those are false. Okay,
Yes,
one is
they
a
are.
phenomenon called neurogenesis, where we actually do create new brain cells,
Yes, we
but
do.
more easily than that is that we are creating new synaptic pathways, like, for
Yes.
example, by learning Spanish, or by doing Sudoku, or practicing crossword puzzles, or
Right.
just interacting with people. Just by what we do every day, we are learning and retraining ourselves with new synaptic pathways. Okay, and
Yeah.
so if you build in these somatic self-care practices to your life, to your routine, you are helping to sculpt, neurosculpt your brain in new and powerful ways.
Yes. You wanted to share the EFT technique with us.
Oh, okay.
And I've cleaned out. Oh, Lord.
Cleaned
Thank
out
you.
your closet.
We have 10 or 15 minutes if you'd like to do an EFT experience for people with a fairly generic focus, but something that people might get benefit from by learning the technique,
Okay, sure.
if you'd like to do that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'm right there with you.
Yes, I was about to say, Brenda, if you could be our guinea pig.
I'll be your guinea pig.
Okay, great. All right. So Brenda, both you, but also for everyone who's listening, on this call, on this show, um, think of something stressful. We all have stress in our lives. Okay, so just thinking of something that's stress, and not your worst nightmare or trauma, but it's kind of a medium, you know, sized trauma, not trauma, just a medium sized experience. Say on a scale
Mm-hmm.
of 0 to 10, about a 5 or so. 4 or 5 or
Okay.
6. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
all right. And so just get in touch with that and notice what that feels like and where it hangs in your body. Okay.
Would you
And take
like me to share what I'm feeling or no?
no, no, we can
Okay.
keep it confidential.
Okay.
Okay. And that way everybody attends to their own experience. Okay.
Good.
And then make like a bowl. Okay. And put that stress in your hands. Okay. And then just gently raise and lower and feel the weight of that.
Mm.
Feel how light or how heavy that stress is, and just notice the feeling quality of it.
Mm-hmm.
And rate its intensity on a scale of 0 to 10. Okay. And just notice what that is for you. Okay. And then I'm going to say something. What you do is you simply acknowledge it. So you say, well, I have this stress, and I don't like it, but I'm willing to accept and embrace myself as I am. I have this stress, it's heavy or it's unpleasant. I wish I didn't have it, but I know I'm a good person, and I'm choosing to embrace myself even with all my faults and flaws. So again, I had this stress, I had this situation. I don't want it, don't need it, didn't have it, but here it is, here we are. So I'm willing to embrace my stress and myself and all of us as we are. Okay? You simply acknowledge it and you welcome it, so to speak. Okay. And then while you're just noticing that stress and noticing where it is in the body, just gently tap here at the side of the hands. And these are all acupoints, top of the head. Take both hands and tap on the eyebrows, and tap on the side of the head. And just noticing this stress, this issue, tapping on the bone below the eyes, this stress and this issue. And tapping below the nose, right at the base of the nose, just noticing the stress, tapping on the chin, and tapping below the collarbone. There's 2 points, the stress and this issue. Then raise one arm slowly and tapping into the other arm, just like you're hoisting a flag. And then switch arms, raise the other arm, and breathing. Lower the arm, lower the flag. Take the side of your hands, just tap the side of the ribs. Okay, then clap your hands and look around. Okay, all right. And then Brenda, yeah, I will ask you to share now if you're willing to do that. So what do you notice? What happened when you did that?
Well, I noticed that my body really liked the attention that I was giving to it.
Yeah,
And the other thing I noticed is that the place where I was feeling it is here with a little bit of a headache.
right.
And that headache has dissipated. It's still there because it has a message for me. It's not uncomfortable. And it knows that I will address it when we, get finished here.
Yes.
So that
Yeah,
was really nice.
yeah, yeah. So it's a call for attention.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a good point. I mean, obviously, difficult issues sometimes we have for years are not going to disappear just in one round of tapping. But then what you
Right.
do is you come back and do another round and tap again, and each time you're addressing another layer of the onion. Okay, and you keep going deeper and deeper, addressing each layer of the onion. Sooner or later, you get to the core. When you get to the core, sometimes poof, it goes and releases, and you have a different mindset and mind space.
Right. So we're probably going to do this one more time so people can experience the layer effect. I know that if and when I do this again with you or when the show is finished, I will get more information from my body, from what's
Yes,
going on, if I'm willing to listen and to continue doing this
yes,
and honoring what's there.
yes, yeah. Yeah, acknowledging and honoring what's there and acknowledging the truth of your experience
Yes.
is crucial to this. And again, EFT and these other techniques the theme of our show today, of course, is somatic self care. And EFT is a somatic technique, it is a body based technique.
Right.
Yes. Okay. So let's do
Yeah.
another round of this just to. So
Okay.
just take your hand and just gently rub the hands together like we're about to make magic or about to make mischief or something. Then opening
Well,
up
the
our.
nice thing about this is that you don't have, it doesn't have to be heavy. It
Right,
doesn't have to, the process doesn't have to be heavy and serious and all of
right.
that.
Yes. Okay. So open your hands and make a bowl like we did before, and put what's left. Checking in what's left with that stress or that issue, whatever you had before. Okay. And so we're feeling it, noticing in this fresh new moment of time. And then again, rate on a scale of 0 to 10, noticing what number it is. Okay. Okay. And I'm going to say something like, so I have this stress, or I still have some stress, and I know it's not going to release that completely or that quickly. I'm willing to welcome and accept and embrace myself where I'm at anyway.
Right.
So I have this stress, this issue, and I wish I didn't have it, but here it is. Oh well. And I'm choosing to welcome and embrace myself in all of my glorious imperfection. So again, I have this stress, I have this issue, I got this stuff going on, and I feel out of control of it, or I wish I didn't have it. But I know that stress happens, people happens, life happens. And I'm choosing to welcome and embrace my stress, my body, my feelings, my emotions, myself, and all of me as I am right here and right now. So again, acceptance. Acceptance is one of the keys, is one of the yeah building blocks of EFT and somatic
Mm-hmm.
techniques like this. Okay, so we just simply acknowledge and accept it, and then gently tapping the side of the hands, the karate chop spot, and tapping top of the head. And just noticing the stress, noticing what's left. On the side of the eyes, the stress, below the eyes, noticing the stress in my body, and below the nose, raising one arm, noticing the stress, and then shifting, tapping here, noticing the stress, and tapping below the collarbone, and breathing, noticing what's left. Again, tapping one arm, raising the other arm, and then tapping under the other arm, tap, 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 tap the side of the ribs, gently leaning forward and slowly inhaling, filling up the lungs and chest and opening, looking up, slowly releasing, letting go. Leaning forward, filling up the lungs and the chest, opening, embracing the sky. Release. And once more, leaning forward, inhaling, filling up the lungs and chest, opening and expanding, and breathing, and release. Okay. And clap your hands, look around.
I don't know if anybody's ever asked, but what is the clapping hands and looking around? Does that just bring you back in again or
What happens
acknowledge what happened or
Yeah, Brenny, that's what's called a pattern interrupt. A pattern
oh,
interrupt. So before this, we're focusing, generally have people close their eyes. You're focusing on the stress and this stress, this stress. And you're basically going inside focusing on the stress. So we're not thinking about the stress anymore. And then you open the eyes, and this clapping and looking around brings the attention out. So we're shifting attention, bringing it outside, bringing it out of our bodies, looking around, clapping, and interrupting that pattern.
well, thank you for that because I knew we did it all the time. I just never heard anybody ask the question. So I thought, I'll ask the question.
And just
Give
to let you
me,
know, yeah,
go
I have
ahead.
modified, I've been doing EFT for many years now, and I have modified it in ways that actually improve the effectiveness of it. And that's one little modification that I've added over the years. And so
Yeah,
just checking in.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about your book.
Oh, okay. So yeah, let me grab a copy here. So I've written a book called Heal Yourself with Emotional Freedom Technique. Okay. And this is it's kind of an amazing story of what happened. Let me just tell you a little bit about it. It is a how-to book on teaching EFT.
It's
Uh,
nice. I have it.
Yeah. So what happened was in about the year 2011, the summer of 2011, this editor from London emailed me and said, "Would you be willing to write a book on EFT?" Okay. And I get a lot of offers and a lot of at first I thought it was spam, or I thought it was some kind of
Yeah.
here like Vanity Press, here pay us $10,000, we'll publish your book. You know, but luckily I I replied, sent a note back, and we began dialogue. And I found that they were a legitimate publisher. The publisher is a company called Hodder and Stoughton in London. And so, with great reluctance, I thought about it, but with great reluctance, I agreed to write the book. And I say with great reluctance is because one is I, I'm a horrible procrastinator. Okay. All
I'll
right.
raise my hand to that.
Okay. Or you used to be, not as bad as I used to be. Okay. Um, just putting things off, but also uh, I had a personal relationship with Gary Craig at the time, and I did not want to offend him because there are over 100, easily over 200 books on EFT, and he's not happy with some of them, and I did not want to offend him at the time. Okay, but I knew that it would be good for me, it'd be good for my career, and also I knew I had something I thought about. I had some things to say. I have a unique perspective on EFT, just like every EFT practitioner does. So with great reluctance, I agreed to write the book. Okay, and so anyway, they sent me a contract. It was a 12-page contract full of fine print. Just you sign all your rights away. So
Glory. Yeah.
I signed it and sent it back. And then a few weeks into it was January 2012. They sent me a check in the mail. They sent me in advance. Okay, and so I thought, oh, this is interesting. Free money. This is great. I still wasn't sure. I still was not committed to the project. So I took the check and I scotch taped it to my window where I could see it, where I could look at it. And so it was right there, and it was, I was in touch with it, but I wasn't going to jump into anything rash here, even though I'd signed a contract already. Okay, and so it was sitting there, and then a couple of weeks later, I got several big bills came in that I wasn't expecting, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, where am I going to get the money to pay these bills? And I'm wondering about it. And then I look over the window. There's this check sitting there. I said, "Aha! There's the check, free money." So I went to got the check, went to the bank, cashed it, went through, paid the bills, and I said, "Ah, isn't that great? What a good boy am I?" Okay, that's pretty cool. Okay. And couple mornings later, I wake up, and then I said to myself, "Oh, now I've got."
Got to write the book.
Now I got to write that damn book. I cashed the check. Now and so, Brenda, anyway, we set a deadline of August 15th of 2012. Okay. And so to be honest, I thought about it. Okay. And I did write an outline of chapters, and I did consider it, and I began some preliminary work on it, but nothing really serious. Okay. And so June came along, July came along. We have an annual conference that I coordinate the research symposium for. And then I was busy with clients and stuff. And anyway, I just kept putting it off. Nothing was happening. And so a couple of weeks before the deadline, I realized, I had hardly done anything with it. So I sent an email to my editor, and I said, "Look, I'm terribly sorry, but there's no way I can get this done by the deadline." And I was half hoping and half expecting that she'd write back to me and say, "Look, I'm sorry, you're a flake, send us the money back," that kind of thing. So she sends me an email back, and she says, "Okay," she says, "when could you have it done for?" Okay. So then I thought about it, and then I said, "Oh, okay, here we go again. Ball's back in my court. What do I do?" And I realized that this was a great opportunity because it's very difficult. I don't know if you know, but only about 1 or 2% of books are being published by real publishers these days. It is very, very difficult to find a publisher for your book. And here was that it was being handed to me. And so, again, I thought about it and I said, okay, by this time it was into September of 2012. So I said, okay, October, November, December, January. I'll give myself to January 1st, 4 months. So I wrote back, I said January 1st, 2013. And she said, okay. We kind of shook on the deal by email, and that was it. Okay. And so then to get serious. I realized I was really committed to the book now, and got serious about it. But sometimes, you have writer's block. Sometimes the writing flows and sometimes it doesn't. So every morning I would get up, I'd make my, get dressed, make myself a cup of coffee, sit at my desk, and I would turn off, my email and turn off, Facebook and all my distractions, and I would do some tapping. Even though I don't feel motivated right now, even though I don't know what to say, even though I'm angry with myself for agreeing to this damn book. What was I thinking? Okay. I still welcome and embrace myself as I am. Okay. Even though I had this issue, even though I procrastinate, even though I think I'll still won't get it done by the deadline. And you just name and acknowledge the thoughts going through your mind, the blocks and the resistance, you acknowledge it. And I welcome and embrace myself. And what happens, it was amazing, but invariably within 4 or 5 minutes, I would think like I had nothing to say or had no ideas. The ideas would start flowing, and then I had to stop tapping. Go to my computer, start typing the ideas as they were coming, and they were flowing, and things were moving. And amazing for me, I made that second deadline. But that only happened because I tapped on my resistance, my procrastination every day. So
That makes perfect sense to my brain.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this. And just a reminder to everyone, John's 3 check-ins. Checking your posture. Are you breathing? And if do some deep breathing, do some heart breathing. And what's your immediate attitude right now? And the
yes,
other thing is, we have 1 minute for you to share about your Transformational Tuesdays.
okay, all right. Well, just say this book is available on Amazon, just like everything else, of course. Heal Yourself with Emotional Freedom Technique. And then on Tuesday evenings, I am leading a free online class called Transformational Tuesdays.
Right.
And we do about 20 minutes of psychocalisthenics, like we did at the beginning of this show. Okay. And then uh, every week there's a different theme, for example, about compassion or about forgiveness or, um, releasing. I've talked about releasing internalizing our mother projection
Yes.
last week, for example. Okay, so a different topic, and then I will lead a technique such as tapping or havening or guided meditation, or we also do something I call rhythmic rebalancing, where we cross our arms and just
We
gently.
rock. I love the rocking
We,
too.
we, hey, do we ever? We rock, baby. We
We
rock.
rock. Yeah, we do. We rock.
We rock. Okay. And so, which rebalances the hemispheres and rebalances. This is rhythmic rebalancing. It's balancing through movement. And it's good to
Right.
remember that movement is medicine. And so, it's by moving that we literally reattune, rebalance, reintegrate parts of
Right.
ourselves.
Right.
Okay. But anyway, we do some kind of practice along with a topic addressed to some issue within ourselves. And we do that every day. And that's a free and online class.
Right. Thank you. And you can send an email to John at freejjii@gmail.com, and
Yes.
he will send you a link every week if you want to get on his list for
Yes.
attending the class. Thank you so much for being with us, John. Remember the 3 check-ins, and remember that you're learning to have greater somatic awareness within your body by attending to your emotions, sensations, and needs. And let's take some breathing now. Love yourself each day with somatic care. Thank you, John, so much. I'm going to say goodbye to you.
Great. Thanks, Brenda.
Yana,
Thank
if you would show, thank you so much. If you would show the ad for Thursday's show later today, and then and breathe as you're watching that. You'll see this is me with no makeup. Go for it. Hello, my friends. Brenda L. Balding here. The L stands for Love's Inner Voice. My TV show on I Have Today TV network on Thursdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time, with a rerun at 8 a.m. on Sunday Pacific time. Please join me on October 3rd when I am sharing about the first 5 shows that we've done, so that you can see who showed up, maybe you want to watch the show. We have a good time. Maybe it'll encourage you to watch future shows. I do talk about future people coming to join us. Please join me. Blessings to you and your family. Be well. Bye for now. Thank you so much, Yana. Breathe as we leave. Just breathe. Blessings to everyone. Thank you, Yana. Thank you, John.